Say what again? Lie on your mat. Okay. On your mat. Lie on your mat. Okay. We're all here? So I gather it's warm outside. Quite cool in here. So I'll write up the stuff from the board again, go in the synopsis for you to think about. And I still haven't put the job description up on the board, but I'll do that maybe last. And what we'll do with those two sorts of things are use them as a basis for you next week when you're teaching again, the Esalen lesson that you've chosen, and you can set yourself some little challenges from these lists, but what you would like to concentrate on in that practice, and that you can state that to your group beforehand, and they'll use that to frame their feedback. So you might say, I really want to focus on the timing of the rests and pauses. And I really want to focus on the use of metaphor, for example. So those are the two things that you've stated up front that you're interested in playing with in the practicum, and therefore your group will direct their feedback about those two things. You as the teacher are in control of the feedback. And we'll go through that again, and Doran and Jenny will go through it again, Ruth. But just to plant that seed, that we recognise, you look at that whiteboard of all the possible sorts of methods and skills and knowledge that you have at your disposal as an ATM teacher. You think, oh my gosh, how am I going, can I do all of those? Well, in this learning situation, what do we do in ATM? We break things down and we take a couple of things and we foreground them. And we know what's in the background, but we foreground a couple of things to give them the proper attention that they deserve. And then we pop them back into the hole. So that's what you're going to do with the ATM practicum, is you choose a couple of things to foreground that you're going to pay attention to, your colleagues are going to pay attention to, and that's the learning. Now other things can pop up, but you're in control of it as the teacher. Sound okay? You already think of the thing. So therefore, you can choose something that you actually feel a little bit confident in and go more for perfection in that area, or you can choose something that, the one that, freezes the blood in your veins. If you want to, that's up to you. So the level of challenge, therefore, is up to you. Okay, you don't have to go with easy. You go with, it's your choice. Stop babbling. Just go with your choice. Okay. So I thought I'd say that while you're all lying there, attentively. Maybe I've auto suggested you into a state of comatose. All right, so the ATM today is perfecting the self-image. The titles are somewhat random in the ATM book in some ways. In my head, I would call this something else. So I won't tell you what it is because figure out, Actually, let's make that one of the tasks. What would be another title for this lesson? So when you reteach it, that's the unknown. You have your version, like we call the side-sitting twisting lesson, which he calls coordinating. What does he call that? Movement of the eyes directs the movement of the blah blah. Coordinates the rest of it. We call that the dead bird because of the hand dangling. So what would you call this lesson coming up? So that's a gap for you to fill in. Okay. And in terms of preparing your, setting a baseline for your awareness and your attention, your sensation, as you're lying there, please notice. Actually, I reckon go back to noticing the length of the front of you, the length of the back of you again. There's something very interesting in this lesson. There's an interesting organisation that emerges out of this lesson that speaks a little bit to what we were experiencing this morning. Go ahead and do that. So to remind you that the length from the base of your neck, so around the seventh cervical vertebra or the first thoracic. So there's a cultural change in linguistics that the American trainers coming here have to stop calling the neck vertebrae cervical. We had to politely tell them that for us in Australia, cervical means down there. So they have to go cervical so that the neck vertebrae, otherwise, particularly Australian women, start thinking we're going to get a pap smear or something. Okay, so you're scanning the front, the back of you, your cervical vertebrae down to the coccyx, and the front of you, so from the top of your sternal notch, the top of the sternum, down to the pubic bone. And the banana qualities in those lines, where the curves are, short side of the curve and the long side of the curve. And roll up to sitting. And sit so that your knees are open and your feet are, both feet, the sides of your feet are on the floor. So they're not crossed, but you're like that. And slide your right hand under your right foot such that you can hold your heel in the palm of your right hand. Yep. And with your left hand, so you might need, well, it depends on how flexible your socks are. Can you take a hold of the toes of your right foot with the left hand such that your thumb is between the big toe and the next toe? So the thumb can actually go between the big toe and the next toe. And then the rest of the left hand is wrapped around the other toes. So your thumb is, so your socks are good enough. So your thumb is between the big toe and the next toe. And from underneath. That's it. Yeah, something like that. That's uncomfortable. That's okay. But, don't do it. If it's uncomfortable, just put up with it. Yeah, that's what you did. No, I shouldn't say weird things like that, should I? Left hand on the right foot. Left hand on the right foot. So you've got two hands holding one foot. That cake was really nice. Did that? Your mum, I heard. Thank you, Chelsea's mum. All right, so you've got this kind of, Ramon, have your thumb come from underneath the foot. That's it. So your left hand is coming from underneath the right foot. Yeah, and you'll see why. You'll literally see why, because you're going to pick up that right foot a little bit towards your face. A little bit. Start off just a little bit. Because if your left hand is over the top of the foot, your foot will have to twist downwards. And your foot is really twist. Going to come up. Now, how can you hold this foot in a way that you really care about it? So imagine that you're giving yourself an FI, and this is somebody else's foot. And catch yourself. Are you more attentive if you think it's somebody else's foot? Or would you treat your own foot with a bit of careless disregard? Right? Can you care for yourself with the same love and attention that you would care for other people? Picking up this foot, and with the same kind of curiosity. So I don't, hopefully you don't do some weird dissociations and I think that the leg isn't yours and completely lose your sense of agency about your leg. I've got clients who have legs that don't belong to them. It's just that's a nuisance. So pick this foot up with care and start to notice the different ways that you could, if we think about, stiffer and the muscles with activation. Well, firstly, think about the pathway of movement. In fact, firstly, think about the sequence. So what's the initial, the preparation that you've done is the thing that I was meticulous with you about, is the way you hold your foot. That starts you in a certain preparation. And then how do you initiate the lift? Where is the initiation of the lift? I'm watching and it's different for everybody, and you're playing around with different things anyway. But once you've got the grip, is it you grip tighter? Is it a movement in the pelvis? Is it something in the elbow, something in the wrist, something in the shoulders? Is it something? For you, where is it? What initiates it? Dig your elbows into your belly. And now as you lift your foot, lift it up off the floor and a bit forward. So sort of up and away from you. And if this foot was a sleeping baby, would you lift it the same way? What would be the qualitative change if this foot was a sleeping baby? As a sleeping baby, you would let it go and run out the room, abandon it on somebody else's doorstep. Oh, that tells me a lot about you. Okay. If it was something that you didn't quite like, like, I don't know, a baby's nappy, how would you pick it up? I was just thinking something I really don't like picking up, and where you keep the potatoes, there's a potato that's gone off. You have to pick it up. So how would you pick it up if your foot was like that potato that's going off? That's fishy. Yeah. And then go back to something more kind. Now in the ATM book, it was pretty much the only instruction for this text. And he says, and pretty soon you'll find that you can bring your, for most people, pretty soon it will be easy to get your foot over top of the foot. So there's quite a gap, isn't there, between, speaking of flexibility, so there's quite a gap between taking your foot forward and then almost like making a circle of it and taking it over the top of your head. So you can be ambitious and do that if you want to, but where would you go to fill in the gap between lifting your foot off the floor, taking a little bit before you, and then this idea that it could go above your head without, forcing anything, being silly about achievement and requisite points forever. So what does that require? If there was going to be a change of orientation, the pathway of the movement, to arc more forward and then up and over. So will your head come to the party, so to speak? So can your head, what would have to happen in the trunk for your head to lower, make that an easier proposition? What would have to happen in where you take weight on the pelvis, the head to lower? What would have to happen in the shape of your spine? Yeah. The left leg, in this instance, is bent, but if it doesn't matter. If you want it straight, that's fine. It's not a deal breaker either way. Okay, good. And leave it. Find a way to roll on your back and rest. So in this position, now bring your right foot up and bring both legs up, so they're sort of more or less over your chest, and take hold of your right foot in the same way that you did in the first half. And now pop your left leg, the left foot down on the floor, so you don't have to worry about where it's going. And have both arms, have your right knee outside of your arms. That's it. And again, start to lift your foot. Lift it up relative to you. So it will go towards your nose, is up relative to you. Up relative to the room is towards the ceiling. So go up towards your nose as the first kind of intention. And then start to add in towards the ceiling so that you can start to make a bit of a circle. Foot goes up and away from you, and then towards your nose, and then back down to where it started, in a circle kind of movement. So it's actually the same movement that you did when you were sitting, but now it's on your back. So remember, one of the ways that we facilitate learning is to set up a comparison. So now we're doing the same movement, but in a different orientation. So you're in a different relationship to gravity. So even though the sequence of movement in terms of the skeleton is technically the same, but muscle activation is vastly different. No, that's right, because different bits, the floor provides a different constraint now, and gravity is providing a resistance in a different direction. Gravity is the same, it's you that's changed. And if you add in this possibility that your head could be, your foot could go more towards the direction of the top of your head, once or twice, could you lift your head, find a way to lift your head. Now, that can be more or less difficult in this position. So go slowly, feel what that's like as a possibility, or imagine it. Imagination is fine. And then rest for a moment, rest on your back. Take hold of your foot the same way, so that the left foot can stay on the floor and the right foot comes up, and you take hold of it. Did you remember to hold it like the most precious baby again, or were you holding it like the stinky potato, broken? It's your mother's Waterford crystal glass that she inherited from your great-grandma. Now this time, as you take your foot in that kind of circular direction, could the circle itself move more to the right? So at the moment, the circle has been mostly kind of in front of you or above you. Could it be more to the right, so that actually you're doing the circle and your right knee is closer to the floor? A weird looking idea. And in the production of this circle, could you find a way that your right knee could rest on the floor? You laugh. Let's do it. Let's do it, Mikey. You find, obviously there's a roll involved. Go gently, 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 and you're on your side. That might help. Yeah. Have you allowed your head to turn? And then doing the circle when you're essentially on your side a little bit, you can make the circle much smaller. And this idea that your foot could go above your head on your side, meaning that your face will slide along the floor in the direction of your right knee. So if you're feeling a bit disoriented, what do? The tactics, you go slower. Now here's the next funny thing about this lesson, is he goes from that instruction, so your right knee is kind of on the floor and you're taking your head towards the foot, towards the head and the foot. Well, and then he said, and use this movement to roll up to sitting. Now for the general public, that would make them weep, maybe not, but you've kind of done it before. And it's one of the elusive, obvious things. When you get it, it happens and you think, what the hell, how did that happen? But what would be the instructions in between that you could use to help people who don't find it spontaneously? So, my friends, that is the task I'm setting you today as ATM teachers. You're going to watch each other do this movement. Come back down. Good one. Because, I mean, this is literally, I'm not kidding you, this is what's in the book. Now, you've all figured it out because you're super learners. Right? Well, I shouldn't say all, but because some of you are using, effort, and you're pushing and holding your breath and doing all sorts of funny things. So there's a whole lot of refining to do. And some of you who aren't prepared to push and effort and hold your breath aren't doing it, which is also perfectly fine. How would you go around helping the class to do that? So start off, leave it, come up to sitting any old way and sit in the beginning movement. And for yourself, do the reverse of the movement. So the one that we started off with, pick your foot up. How would you extend that picking of the foot up to roll down by way of your right side onto your right side and therefore onto your back? What figure out for yourself? And then the requirement is that you go by way of your right knee. Your right knee goes onto the floor. Sorry? No, the left leg can do what it likes. In fact, it's really important that it finds something useful to do. But I want you to find out for yourself. Now, I'll give you a suggestion too. The other really key thing is about where the nose goes. The nose knows. The nose knows. Okay. So, now I'm actually being a bit tough with you. What he actually said when he asked people to come in from the sitting down to the lying, he starts them off in side sit with the left leg behind. Yeah, which is what Narayan was doing spontaneously because he's read the book. And he's seen the movie and he bought the t-shirt. So you can try that. Have your left leg inside sit. And now try rolling down. But interestingly, when this movement really kind of fits in, and you get the organisation that's required in the trunk, you can do it with your left leg doing it. And there you go. The nose. I'm not going to tell you. Nose. All right. Leave it. Line your back. So remember this morning we talked about this tactic of self-discovery and how you were all embracing it. And yeah, self-discovery is great. How does it feel? Don't like it. Just tell us, Susan. Tell us the answer. Sick of this self-discovery. Lazy git. Just tell us what's the correct way. You're the teacher. You're the expert. I'm tired. I've had lunch. Oh. It's day 9 out of 15. We're in the second year. We're the equivalent of a batch of year 9s. Hormonal and ratty. Yeah. Yeah. We're not scared like year 8s. Got the cockiness. So, I see in South Australia, it's year 9 is the worst because first year 8 is the first year of high school. So year 9 is the second year of high school in South Australia. So that any teacher will tell you in South Australia it's year 9. So it's different here because high school starts. Oh, year 9. Oh, yeah. Okay. So roll up to sitting and then standing. Just reorient yourself. Find the ground under your feet. Now that I've pulled the rug out from under you. And as you are orienting to yourself standing, start looking around the room and finding your group of 4 or 5. And noticing yourself and your group of 4 or 5, find your way to them. Like negotiate where you're going to meet. Your teaching group, the group that you've been meeting with every day. Okay, and sit down.